AI is advancing at such a rapid rate.
Whatever do you mean? With LLMs crawling the web almost every query, you can have an impact this afternoon. You can use it to outsource your thinking. You can use it to think more deeply. And door number 2 seems to be ranking a whole lot better.
And what else do people need to really think about at the macro scale of AEO?
Somebody was like, hey, if this Fortune 500 CMO fired his or her entire SEO team, we're doing I think it's a huge mistake. Your SEO resources are your AEO resources. Your SEO agency is your AEO agency because this is an evolution.
Nobody better to learn about AEO from right now at this inflection point. And you've lived through the big SEO boom, you felt it. What does this inflection point feel like compared to that?
That's where this conversation begins. Because today, answer engines from ChatGPT to Perplexity and more are reshaping how buyers find products. And for founders and operators, this is one of the biggest arbitrage opportunities since the early days of SEO. Guy Yalif, chief evangelist at Webflow, has seen this movie before. And because he has, he's taking action and has the data to show.
In 2 weeks, half of the incremental citations Webflow got were from those 6 pages. And organic traffic to those pages is up 24%.
In this conversation, you'll learn Webflow's 4-part AEO framework, why answering questions, not keywords, is the new growth edge, and how early adopters can turn this uncertainty into leverage. Or, as Guy puts it,
The people that went earlier, they found relative bargains.
in other words, the kind of upside we haven't seen since the early days of search, SEM, and mobile. All right, let's get into it. Guy, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Sophie. Thanks for having me. Excited to talk with you again.
It is great to have you here. And nobody better to learn about AEO from right now at this inflection point. And you've lived through the big SEO boom, you felt it. What does this inflection point feel like compared to that?
Very similar, actually. Like the early days of search, there are a bunch of different players. Things are changing all the time, like they did back then. I mean, it makes the news now that Google updated their algorithm because it happens a few times a year because it's a settled space. And here, things are changing very rapidly. The rules of what matter are updating frequently enough that everybody feels behind. And there's real opportunity. Like any new medium, those that take action early, they'll find bargains, basically, effective bargains, return relative to the effort they put in.
That's really interesting. And if you were explaining this kind of new world, even though it feels a little bit more similar, but to a founder, what are the key differences?
I think there are some that are saying, look, SEO is dead and this is a whole new world. Respectfully, 180 degrees, black and white, could not disagree more. I think AEO is an evolution of what good SEO always should have been. Genuinely valuable original content, it's getting rewarded. The LLMs, they get to see more context about what's good. When we all learned to speak Google, our average query was 4 words long. The average query in an LLM is 23 words long. So they get more context, they have a conversation. So if I were explaining it to a founder, I would say, look, take SEO, minus one thing plus a couple. The thing that's minus is the concept of ranking for keywords doesn't exist anymore because you got paragraphs now. What's the plus? Plus is topics used to be a basket of keywords, a cluster of keywords, and you tried to make sure you had them in your content. Now a topic is a group of questions that your prospects may be asking in the funnel, clustered together. So shift from counting keywords to answering questions, that'd be 1. 2, help the LLM understand the structure and meaning of your content. We've been doing that with SEO forever, right? We have the metadata. There's a bit more. Do this thing called schema. And the last would be, we focused on backlinks for years. They still matter. They don't not matter, but incrementally more important than an SEO is repeated mentions in plain text on other sites saying, oh, GTM Now is awesome. Oh, this is one of the top podcasts. That matters more than it did with search.
The pendulum is almost shifting back to that third party. It's bringing PR and all these different things back that, had the moment of not not mattering less by any means, but maybe less emphasis on them, and now are getting highlighted more, which is really interesting.
PR's back, brand is back. Those things matter more than they did before. Yes.
Yeah. And those things matter. So we know definitively what's important, but what about overall just knowing? Like, how do you know? Does anyone actually know what's working with AEO, or are these best guesses? How are we thinking about a single source of truth around AEO?
So you said definitively no, and I'm glad you asked the question, because anyone who says they definitively know is lying. Like, no one knows. But in the same vein, but no one knows for SEO, right?
Yeah.
We all try a bunch of things. We observe the results of an experiment. Oh, I added more keywords, fewer keywords, longer metadata, shorter metadata. And they saw what works. But no one actually knows what's happening in the Google algorithm. Now with the LLMs, not even the LLM providers themselves know what's actually happening in there. So when we talk about these rules of thumb, they are very well educated, very well researched, data-driven guesses. They're the current best thinking about what one should do to go manage the risk and opportunity of LLMs, which is really to take back control of our brand narrative and drive more traffic to our websites to go generate revenue.
Absolutely. And AI is advancing at such a rapid rate. Do you? Yeah, never heard of it. What do you think that changes about the SEO adoption to AEO? So when you say they're all educated best guesses, are those guesses changing at a pace that is faster than SEO? Or would you say they're evolving at the same pace as they did?
In my humble opinion, it's faster, exactly for the reason you described. The LLMs are improving their ability to understand meaning and structure and content, on like a monthly basis, every couple of months. Hat tip to Google and Yahoo and Bing and everyone, but like, it didn't go that fast. I don't recall from back in the day that it did. Mercifully, we have skipped over a whole generation of spam where if you look at the stuff that ranks top in Google, 85% of it is either entirely human generated, that's about 65%, and another 20% is like a little bit of AI. So the notion that I can create infinite content with an LLM and I'm just going to go spam out zillions of pages, it's not working, thankfully.
Thankfully. Less noise.
Yes.
Less noise is always good. And when you're thinking about overall frameworks or advice to people that are leaning into AEO, do you have any kind of recommendations? I know at Webflow you're doing a ton of work in the space and know those best practices and have implemented them yourself. We'd love to hear a little bit more around that work, and I guess your best educated guess, not necessarily what is technically working, but what are your best educated guesses right now?
Vivian, who leads our SEO and AEO team, has done some amazing work. And we went and looked for examples, case studies. Spent lots of time, many hours looking. There aren't any. My best guess about why is that people are doing the work. It's not yet repeatable enough that they're sharing it externally. So we're sharing a lot of what we're doing externally. All the research we've done, talking with other experts in the space, looking at the data, humbly, we would suggest thinking about the transition from SEO to AEO in 4 categories. The first is content, where you go from counting keywords to answering clusters of questions to making content super relevant with personalization. So this is all about like the content you own. The second is technical, where you go from on-page SEO to helping LLMs understand the structure and meaning of your content by giving them more metadata. Like we all did it with Facebook's Open Graph.
Yeah.
Now there's this thing that many know about, but many also don't, called schema, that is just another form of metadata that Google, Bing, Yahoo, Yandex, and others came up with. And it's like, oh, here's how you specify an events page, a product page, a bio page. 88% of sites don't have schema, but 73% of Google's top results do. So like tons of opportunity there. Coming back to technical, and you want that on a super fast site global. Third area is authority, where we went from backlinks that still matter, they don't not matter, to repeated positive plain text mentions about your brand, pointing to a visually stunning, emotionally evocative experience, because that's a signal about authority too. And the last is measurement, where we go from keyword ranking, which no longer exists, to did I show up in the questions I care about, to what's my share of voice relative to my competitors and what's the sentiment? Because over here in search, Google was using our words. Here, the LLMs are reformulating everything, so the notion of sentiment being important exists. So those 4 buckets: content, technical, authority, and measurement.
Incredible. And from implementing those, you said the team's been doing a great job. What kind of results have you seen?
Vivian and team have done a bunch. They partner with our SEO and AEO firm Graphite, and a couple of things come to mind. She recently took our top half dozen product pages and tried to put some structure on them so the LLMs could understand the meaning and structure of them. What did she do? She put FAQs at the bottom of the page. So about half a dozen FAQs. She then put schema, that metadata, there in line with those FAQs. In 2 weeks, half of the incremental citations Webflow got were from those 6 pages. 6 pages out of thousands that we have.
Yeah.
And organic traffic to those pages is up 24% in 2 weeks. So that was one thing she did, and it's great, and that's the beginning. We're going to do more. The second is that freshness matters. So the content machine is as hungry as ever for good original content. 85, maybe 95% of the content ChatGPT cites was updated in the last 10 months. So she worked with another partner of ours, AirOps, to increase the speed with which we refreshed content. She did that and found 20%, 40% more traffic coming from AI search because we were updating the content more regularly. And we see that content with freshness indicator, like last updated date, gets 1.8x more citations. So giving structure and updating more regularly. 2 experiments that have worked really well for us.
Wow. That's a huge difference just from updating content.
Yeah.
And maybe this is getting into the tactics. I need to give her a call, but what constitutes updating? How much work would you say? There's a lot of companies essentially that have a ton of content, but it's not necessarily optimized for AI engines and they want to refresh them. How much work is it to refresh existing content?
The direct answer is, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I
This is
haven't
why we'll
Vivian in depth.
give her a ring.
Totally. I do believe, first, it's worth running the experiment. Somebody said, hey, wait a minute, if you need fresh content, what if you just change the last updated? Is that enough? I hope it's not.
It's not. At least from the SEO side, I know it's not. I don't know if AI engines differ, but from the SEO side, you need something in the main body. You need like a little bit of a main point and the date. So I would imagine it's the same, but I don't know. I got to call Vivian.
That's one I would bet without data. All the other stuff was data-driven. This is hypothesis. And the other hypothesis would be that AirOps, the tool we partner with, makes it easy to do that in a workflow and with LLMs, but that can't be it, right? If you just pump out an LLM updated page, you need human review, you need human editorial. I've got friends who started companies, maybe GTM Fund invested in one, where it's like, I can detect if this was entirely LLM created using statistical pattern matching on the content. And so we touch with a human every piece of content in a material way before it goes out the door.
Interesting.
So both hypotheses rather than data-driven, but you've got the SEO data there.
Yeah, and it sounds like the common theme of you can't rely on AI to get from 0 to 100. It'll take you part of the way there, but you do need that process for actually implementing a human touch.
Totally. And I feel like one of the underspoken but foundational things in LLMs as like kindergartners through to CEOs learn about them and how they change everything is you can use it to outsource your thinking. You can use it to think more deeply. And door number 2 seems to be ranking a whole lot better with answer engines than door number 1. And by the way, it helps make all of us more employable. So I feel like it's something we aren't talking about enough, but it looks the same on the surface. You used an LLM.
Yeah.
But what's going on inside your head could be completely different.
And it's tempting to go the quick route, but always play the long game and actually invest in the depth.
A quick pause to tell you about a company you need to know. ZoomInfo is the go-to-market intelligence platform built for sales, marketing, and RevOps. By unifying data, workflows, and insights into a single system, ZoomInfo helps revenue teams find and engage the right buyers, launch go-to-market plays faster, and drive predictable growth. With industry-leading accuracy and depth of data, it gives your team the intelligence advantage to win in competitive markets. It's trusted by the fastest-growing companies and has become the category leader in go-to-market intelligence. Learn more at zoominfo.com.
You mentioned 2 points that you did that had a huge impact, and one of them was updating and refreshing pages for, let's say, founders or early-stage companies that are really looking to implement AEO tactics, but there's a lot out there. You listed off a lot of different really interesting points that people could dive into. What are the 2 big ones that you'd recommend? Are those the 2, or would you recommend 2 others?
If you only did 2 things, I would suggest you answer questions. So shift from keywords to questions and answer them comprehensively. And the second is add schema metadata to your site so that you can help the LLMs understand the meaning of your site more effectively. Those are easily the top 2 things I would suggest doing. They're the right place to start.
Keywords, metadata.
And,
Brilliant.
Yes.
And answers. Sorry.
No.
This is how much is ingrained in my brain.
You too have many years in search.
I do. Yeah, it's a bit of a rewiring.
Yeah.
So it is a process. Okay. Super helpful.
But to your point about the rewiring, it's not like throw it all out. It's adjustments. It's an evolution rather than a wholesale revolution.
Okay. And what else do people need to really think about at the macro scale of AEO?
I hope it's not true. It's not validated at all. But at one of these conferences, somebody was like, hey, if this Fortune 500 CMO fired his or her entire SEO team and is like, we're doing AEO. I think it's a huge mistake. Your SEO resources are your AEO resources. Your SEO agency is your AEO agency because this is an evolution. So SEO is dead and this is a complete revolution, I think is one of the easiest ones to see some great articles about. And I don't think the data supports it. And the second is just like we did with SEO, you can start small and grow. In the example we talked about with Webflow, Vivian chose 6 pages, saw real results. Obviously, she's then going to go continue, but she didn't do everything all at once day one.
No, that makes sense. Okay. Super helpful advice. I love it. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out now over time.
To your point, we are all learning together, right? This mental model we have of these 4 categories. We also made up a rubric of 5 different levels of them. That'll keep adjusting as we all learn.
And how do you learn? How do you learn about AEO and then AI overall?
A bunch of time, really. It is a bunch of time experimenting, focusing on data because there are a lot of things being said. And when I'll read an article about something and I'll dig into the source for that and the source and the source and the source. And sometimes I'm like, wait, that article, it contradicts the original underlying data, but it was like a telephone game of referencing each other and then staying close to the work we're doing, experimenting directly with both. I happen to like 2 podcasts. One is this one, which I listen to religiously. And the other one is Marketing AI Institute's podcast, which Paul and Mike, they produce great content too.
Okay, I love it. I think that's where, with the fast evolution, people are learning the most on the fly. Our individuals, our networks like podcasts and channels and so forth, where it's just a little bit more live and flexible. I know that's where personally I learn the most too, is podcasts from people individually, how they're learning. We're seeing a lot more content out there that is dynamic, that's actually tactical, actionable advice on AI. And I know you're producing a lot of content around that too, actually. So for anyone kind of curious about their own AEO strategy, what kind of resources are out there? Because I know that you are working on a ton.
I would invite people to go to webflow.com/resources/AEO. There you will not find a pitch for Webflow. What you will find is a place to go enter your domain name, hit enter. A couple of minutes later, you will get an email saying, we ran in the background a 600-line prompt. It's about to become 1,700 in V2 that goes and looks at your site, goes and looks off your site and suggests, hey, here's what we see in those 4 categories: content, tech, authority, measurement. Here are the gaps we see. Here are suggestions for what you might do to level up. and it bottom lines it like you were doing earlier. If you only did 2 things, go do these. And then below that is detail around these 4 categories and the things we're seeing that can help people evolve.
Amazing. And no cost?
No cost.
No cost. Okay, well then we'll drop it in the show notes. That's amazing.
Wonderful.
Yeah, what a great resource, especially after you just broke down those 4 points, and they're super, super important for people optimizing. And what about the people that aren't optimizing? What do you think happens if people aren't actually following an AEO strategy right now and into the future?
In my humble opinion, it's missed opportunity. I think AEO is truly threat and opportunity for us. Over time, we will lose control of our brand narrative because our carefully differentiated and crafted words are being reformulated. We'll lose traffic. Bain found 15 to 25% decrease in traffic, which I think is closer to reality than the headline grabbing, oh, HubSpot lost 80% of their traffic. I don't think that's the norm and was cherry picked for them as an example. And the third is we all sound the same. We're all using the same LLM. So how many people are, the leader, the best, the first, the fastest? And I think, actually, I've lost the train of thought entirely. Where was?
That's okay. What happens if people
aren't doing it? Thank you.
don't? Yeah.
So the risk is we all sound the same. If we then go invest some in AEO, which is with your existing resources, same hours, same people, you're shifting strategy a little bit. You will be earlier to market, and chances are you will find opportunity, just like we did in the early days of search, in the early days of SEM, in the early days of mobile, in the early days of native. The people that went earlier, they found relative bargains. They got more return relative to the amount of effort they were putting in before everybody was there.
Early adopters advantage.
Yes.
And is there a certain percentage that you'd recommend teams think about of reallocating resources from SEO to AEO under the same team?
I think it depends on where they are seeing traffic coming from and how far along they are in their SEO journey. So I do suggest teams go look at traffic to their site. At Webflow, 8% of our self-serve signups come from answer engines today, AI search. By the way, it converts better too because they're further down the funnel. It converts 6 times, not 6%, 6 times better than non-branded organic, which is eye-opening. But so I suggest you look at how much traffic you're getting from answer engines. Look if it's increasing. For us, in unbranded, it went from 0 a year ago to 42% today.
Okay. Yeah.
It's like and so that's worth investing time in. That's a clear signal
Yeah.
to go invest in AEO strategies. That having been said, 25% of the top pages out there don't even have basic SEO metadata. They have broken links. That's also worth tackling if you don't have those fundamentals in place.
Very good call out. And perhaps they can be done in tandem, but maybe we're skipping steps by jumping ahead when really there's a lot of SEO leverage to be had too. But 6x, that's a wild statistic. Like, talk to me about what you mean around that traffic is converting 6x better.
That the traffic that comes from answer engines, you look at touch to purchase, because here we're talking about self-serve sign up.
Yeah.
That is 24% conversion rate. Non-branded organic search is 4% conversion rate for that metric. 2 of the prominent SEO firms, Ahrefs and SEMrush, found in their own data 4x and 23x. So our 6x is in the range.
That's really interesting.
It's and why we think because folks are further down the funnel. So you have less traffic, but it's more qualified because they have self-qualified.
So what do you think behaviorally they're doing? Because I'm thinking to, my procurement processes and yours and the way everybody individually operates. Are they researching on their own and then turning to LLMs? Are we not starting with LLMs, or do you think people are starting with LLMs?
Forrester surveyed B2B marketers. 95% of them said LLMs are going to be part of my buying process this year.
Yeah.
Answer engines will be. So it's clearly something that is important. Did they literally start there? Did they start with search? Did they start with friends? I don't know. Anecdotally, I think word of mouth continues to be the most trusted. That's quantitative. It is the most trusted form of recommendation. By the way, your website's number 2. That was eye-opening. And
so your website isn't dead.
Your website's not dead at all. In fact, I firmly believe that people are going to want to hear your story told your way forever. That is not going away. To your point about how we're engaging with LLMs, often the first look is there, and people are learning, well, what matters in this category? Who are the players? Some of the tofu mofu things that we've all done, but then they are looking to see your story told your way. By the way, that website needs to then speak to humans in visually stunning, emotionally evocative, engaging ways, and to machines. And folks are talking about this like it's new, but it's not. We've had search metadata forever. Now we have a bit more metadata for the LLMs. And so we've been doing this for a while. I think this is obviously more in the zeitgeist now. You need websites that speak to both.
And you've obviously built in this space and solved in this space before. You know it so intimately. One of the quotes that I just absolutely love, and I think about all the time around the work that you've done, the work that I've done in the past, the work that a lot of people are doing right now, is people impute the quality of your product or service from the quality of your website. So even if there are third parties like LLMs, it is your story. You're still owning your story, and design and visually appealing sites and emotionally evocative, like you said, are a huge, huge part of that.
I am very, very much with you, both quantitatively and just subjectively as an individual. And I think the LLMs are going to use it as a signal of quality. That's belief. Why do I believe that? Because Google looks at bounce rate in search, right? Did somebody leave your site and come back immediately? It would be surprising if the answer engines weren't doing that. And you see Perplexity has a browser. ChatGPT is rumored to be creating one. Why might they do that? I believe two reasons. One, to not pay the gajillion dollars Google's paying Apple to be the default in Safari. Fine. Perhaps more valuably, they get to see where you're going. They get to see what's actually valuable content. And so you having a compelling human-focused story on your website will continue to matter a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It may actually get you to appear in the answer engines more often because they can tell it's valuable content.
Valuable. So the quality metric matters a lot more now, sounds like.
It is definitely a signal.
Yeah. Someone told me a very tactical nugget around AEO, and it was that, just as you said, your website matters so much.
Yes.
So that pairing it with the formats that are performing well is really impactful. So publishing a listicle from your own website of the top companies in your area actually performs really well. So for a venture firm, for example, that would be, top early stage venture firms and listing out the top 15. And you could obviously position yourself first or wherever you want on the list. It feels a bit funny, but they were saying that this has been a huge incremental tactic and one of the many checkboxes on AEO. But it feels a little funny. I know we personally haven't done it, but there's a lot of interesting things around that.
Without a doubt, it feels weird to name your competitors or compliment them on your site.
Or just have yourself listed first on your own listicle even.
That also feels weird. And I think the underlying principle is that in the content, separate from the metadata we've been talking about, you can also signal structure to LLMs, a listicle, bullets, to use like in summary, to put FAQs at the bottom, to use one H1 on the page, and then logically structured H2, H3s, H4s. I can tell you how many sites you're like H1, then H3, then H2, and you're like, hold on, you're signaling structure to have accessibility info. Mm-hmm. They use that. They use that actively. And so listicle is a great one. The other underlying principle that we see is in search, it took a while to have an impact because you needed to create authority, and that was based on backlinks, and that took time. With LLMs crawling the web almost every query, you can have an impact this afternoon. You can go see the impact so much more quickly, and it's even multiplied when you and your competitors all do that listicle, which feels super weird, but you can collectively go do that and have an impact this afternoon. By the way, the flip side, the painful side of that coin is you change your positioning. You've changed it on your website today. It may or may not have an impact because lots of other people still have your old positioning there, and that can have an impact. Or I'm sure none of the listeners here have this problem, but if you have some outdated content on your site, again, nobody listening to this has any of that.
Of course not.
But if that did, that also will have an impact. And so the notion of taking down content, which is anathema in search, is a thing in AEO.
Mm-hmm. Fascinating. Well, Guy, thank you for the expertise around AEO. This has been fantastic. I think you said it well around nobody really has the answers, but you yourself are somebody that's been in search for 17 years. You're at one of the companies leading in the space. So we appreciate your thought leadership on it and better informing the insider scoop.
Thanks for the chance to talk about it. And I'm curious. It was great to learn from you here. And I'm eager to continue the conversation and learn from the listeners as we all run different experiments and learn in this rapidly evolving space.
Yeah, I think that you just hit on a really interesting point there too, is it almost resets the playing field. AI resets the playing field where suddenly everyone is learning something at the same time. And so it really democratizes experience in a way. How does that feel as somebody that has, built and successfully sold a company and operated at the highest level? Like, what does that feel like to suddenly have something that is so new?
Joyful. If you deep down are curious and have the prototypical growth mindset, it's awesome to have a learning curve like this again, right?
Yeah.
To like be like, oh my God, this whole new thing is new. That's part of what I enjoyed about the founder CEO journey is the heterogeneity, the diversity of what you needed to focus on regularly. So you're constantly learning new things. Now the whole world has a learning curve like this. That's cool. When was the last time we had that? In school?
Surely.
Like, it's awesome. Or when we tried a new position, or it doesn't happen all the time. This one's going to last for years.
I think the last one was the internet. Do you think there was a different one?
I don't believe there's ever been one of this speed. I think mobile was a huge one. Social media was a huge one. But none of them went this fast.
No, none. It's amazing.
Exactly to that point. 15, 20 years ago, SEO was an issue every CMO and every practitioner would want to talk about. Today, it's mature. What CMOs will generally want to talk about it? Those who are in traffic arbitrage businesses or those for whom that channel is not performing. AEO is now where SEO was before, where every CMO I talk to and every practitioner I talk to, I wonder if you have the same experience, absolutely wants to talk about this because we've all got this learning curve again. It's fun.
Oh, 100%. It's the conversation of every single room. And that's the beautiful thing is it's the best conversation point. I wonder when they'll hit that threshold of people not wanting to talk about AI as much. But right now it is just absolutely captivating any conversation in the room. And you yourself, you talked about how you learned about AI. What about overall? Have there been any impactful books on your career?
I particularly liked a book a long time ago called Getting Real or Get Real. It's by 37 Signals. Do you know it?
I don't. No.
It is about building products, but I think it's about how to run teams. And it is a lot about rapid iteration, quick learning, lots of communication on small teams. And so the team that created Backpack and a few other products created this. And it's not like a long book. It's a bunch of a paragraph on a page. And then the next thought, the next thought, the next thought. And I thought it was very actionable. I also happen to be a fan of Atomic Habits.
A classic.
Classic.
So good.
Yes.
Yeah, I love it. You cannot go wrong with that book. James Clear just did an incredible
Absolutely incredible job.
Yeah.
And comparing those with peers, like what
Yeah.
we do at your annual general meeting.
Yeah.
It's great to simply talk with folks dealing with similar issues.
There's no better learning than just that in-depth conversation. And that's actually part of what we're trying to replicate here with the podcast is how do you democratize access to a lot of the insight and kind of the best minds in tech and the conversations that go on and the knowledge. So appreciate you sharing that. And you've had some wild stories lately. I know you were just at F1 and you had, a phone incident. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
I fell way down the F1 rabbit hole 5-6 years ago as a former aerospace engineer, because, aerospace engineer to CMO is like this super popular career.
Super linear.
Yeah. Super linear.
Yeah.
Was at a race this weekend. And at the end of the race, they generously let you go around the track in this flatbed truck. And you're like, this is holy ground. Oh my God, they were just racing on this. And the guy next to me, almost at the end, was like, this. And I was holding my phone tightly. It went flying onto the ground. And an hour and change later, with lots of help from many great people, my wife in the US included, doing Find My Phone and all of that. Thank you, Monica.
Vodka?
The phone looked demolished, and took it to a repair shop. They said just the screen is okay. And then I got to watch the video. The 17 minutes after it hit the ground, it got run over 5 times.
Wow.
Here it is. This is 2 days later, and it's just fine with the new screen. Like, very impressive.
We might need an Apple ad here. This rate. Yeah. Incredible. You can see where it was run over right here.
Yes.
But
And
otherwise, you never
it
know.
looked like the surface of the moon. It was all like craters everywhere, but
Yeah.
new screen, and the rest of it was fine. And I got the videos from the day off of it.
That's hilarious. What a memory.
It was a great memory and war story.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, I'm glad